Hello, welcome back to Claudia's Math Classroom. I'm Claudia, and we are going to do some more factoring special quadratics. And what I want to talk about today is something called a perfect square trinomial. So this is an example of a perfect square trinomial, okay? The way to recognize them is to see that we have a perfect square. Our first term is a perfect square. Our last term is a perfect square, and we have a plus in front of the last term. Now that doesn't absolutely necessarily make it a perfect square trinomial, but in all likelihood it will be. So I'm going to do another one first. We're going to do this one first, so I can show you how to factor it quickly. Now, we've been doing a lot of factoring ax squared plus bx plus c where a equals 1. A is not 1 here, it's 9. This is a pretty big one to do, so if you had to multiply 9 by 16, you would get 144. And then you'd have to find factors of 144 that add to make 24. Now, we haven't done that kind of factoring yet. That's the subject of the next videos, but it's difficult to factor something with such large numbers. So what we do instead here is we say, well, you know what, this might be a perfect square trinomial. Here's how we recognize it. We have a perfect square here, we have a perfect square here, and a plus in front. Okay, now the further test to see whether it actually is a perfect square trinomial is to take the square root of this, and we're just going to take the number for now, the square root of this, which is 4. We're going to multiply those two numbers and get 12. We're going to add that number to itself, and if that gives us the middle number, regardless of the sign, we have a perfect square trinomial, okay? So then, once you've got this and you've got it figured out, here's how it factors. You take the square root of the first term, you take this sign, whatever sign that is. If it's a minus, you put a minus. If it happens to be a plus, you put a plus. Then you take the square root of that term, which is 4, and you put a square root on the outside, and that's it, you're done, okay? So let's have a look and see how this looks when we multiply it out. And you'll see how this develops. So 3x times 3x, there's our perfect square at the front. 3 times 4, there is the multiplying of those two numbers in the middle. Then we have that again, because the middle terms when you square a trinomial or square two binomials is always going to be the same. So there's that 12x being added to itself, and then finally negative 4 times negative 4 is positive 16. And whether this is a minus or a plus, it is irrelevant. This will always be plus, because when you square a number or square a sign, it's always going to be positive. When we bring the middle terms together, we have 9x squared minus 24x plus 16. So there it is. So now this one, we simply say, oh, well, that's got to be a 1, right? Because it's 1x squared. And then the square root of this is 3. And of course, 3 plus 3 makes 6, which is what we have in the middle. So if you multiply this out, x squared plus 3x plus 9, and x squared plus 6x plus 9. So it makes factoring perfect square trinomials so much easier than if you had to go through the long method of decomposing the second term, which we're going to do. It'll be the subject of the next set of videos. So I'm going to do one more example like this, and then we will stop with this concept for now. So the next one is 3x squared plus 6x plus 3. Right, so the first thing to notice is that you have a common 3. So take that 3 out, and you end up with this. Now this is a perfect square trinomial. We can do it the old-fashioned way, which is what we were doing in the last set of videos. We can take that 1, and we can say, well, 1 only has a pair of factors, and that's 1 and 1. 1 times 1 is 1, that's it. Those are the only ones you're going to get. And then both of these have to have a plus sign on them, don't they, in order to get positive 2 when added. Then when we multiply those signs, are we getting this sign here? Yes, we are. Okay, so we have 3x plus 1, x plus 1. Or we could simply say to ourselves, well, this is a perfect square, and this is a perfect square. The square root of 1 is 1, the square root of 1 is 1, 1 times 1 is 1, 1 plus 1 is 2, which gives us the proper test for perfect square trinomial and tells us that that's what we have. So if we had just this, for example, we would say, okay, square root is 1, square root is 1, 1 times 1 equals 1, added to itself is 2, and that's that number, so we know we have a perfect square trinomial, which then factors like that. The square root of this term, which is x, plus, because there's a plus sign, the square root of this term, which is 1. Or you can also write it like that. Alright, so that's it for today. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time. Thank you very much.